Some ideas in Singapore are so quietly brilliant that the moment you encounter them, you stop and think, why does everywhere else still do it the hard way? A city that lets you drop your luggage at the airport the night before your flight, then hands you back an entire day to explore. Walkways stretching hundreds of kilometers so you never feel the rain on your commute. And a toilet so advanced that going back to a regular one feels like a genuine step backwards. Singapore doesn't just solve problems. It removes them so completely that you only notice they existed the moment you leave. Today, we're counting down 11 Singaporean ideas that instantly make life better. Stay until the end, because number 11 is a vacuum-powered underground trash network running at 60 miles per hour beneath people's feet. And nobody talks about it. Number 1. The Jewel Changi baggage logic. Most airports are built around the plane. Singapore's is built around you. Inside Changi's Jewel complex, a $1.7 billion building with a waterfall taller than most office blocks, there's a check-in facility that does something no other airport does at scale. It lets you drop your bags up to 24 hours before your flight. You hand over your luggage, you collect your boarding pass, and then you're free. No bags, no wait, no reason to come back until your gate opens. A transit passenger can check in that morning, take the train into the city, spend a full day eating and exploring, then walk back to the airport with nothing but a phone. Immigration now takes under 10 seconds using iris and facial recognition. The airport doesn't move people. It gives them their time back. That's a completely different idea. Number 2. The covered walkway network. Singapore sits 2 degrees from the equator. It rains without warning. Humidity hovers around 85% most of the year. And yet the daily commute here is one of the most comfortable in the world. The reason is 200 kilometers of covered walkways connecting homes, train stations, and bus stops across the entire island. The government spent $300 million building them, and the logic behind it is worth understanding. A fast train network means nothing if the last 400 meters to your front door are miserable. So Singapore engineered those 400 meters out of the problem entirely. Here's the part most people don't know. Research shows that people walking under covered paths don't just stay dry. They actually perceive the distance as shorter. No heat, no rain, no mental friction. A 10-minute walk stops feeling like 20. People don't just tolerate the commute. They stop dreading it. The target is 80% of households within covered walking distance of a station by 2030. They're already most of the way there. Number 3. The Hawker Center Tray Return System. Singapore's hawker centers are some of the most democratic dining spaces on the planet. Thousands of people eating side by side every day, where a full plate of food costs under $3. UNESCO recognized them as a cultural heritage in 2020. The challenge was keeping them clean, without an army of cleaners working every shift. In 2021, the tray return rate sat at 65%. By mid-2024, some centers hit 98%. That shift didn't happen by accident. When you order, a small deposit, 50 cents to $1, is added to your bill. Return your tray, get it back. Simple. But here's why it actually works. It's not about the money. 50 cents means nothing to most people. What it triggers is loss aversion, the human tendency to feel the pain of losing something far more than the pleasure of gaining the same amount. You don't return the tray to earn 50 cents. You return it because leaving it behind feels like a small, pointless loss. Since 2023, over 5,000 written warnings were issued to first-time offenders. Only 9 repeat fines in a full year. The behavior just normalized. The halls stay clean, and the cleaners who remain focus on work that actually needs a human. Number 4. District cooling systems. Air conditioning is the defining technology of any tropical city. It's also one of the most energy-hungry things a building can run. In Singapore, they decided to rethink it from scratch. Instead of every apartment and office running its own compressor unit, drawing power, leaking refrigerant, cluttering ledges, and rooftops. Singapore built centralized plants that pipe chilled water directly into buildings through underground networks. The Marina Bay system will cool 28 buildings by 2026. That removes 20,000 tons of carbon emissions every year, the equivalent of taking 17,000 cars off the road. In the new Tengah Ecotown, the system runs 30% more efficiently than standard air conditioning. But the effect you can actually see is what happens above ground. When buildings no longer need individual compressor units, those ledges and rooftops become available for something else. Sky gardens, green terraces, shared spaces. An engineering decision made underground reshapes what the city looks like from the street. Number 5. The vertical green mandate. Singapore has a law. If you build something and destroy greenery at ground level, you must replace it. At minimum, 100%, somewhere on the building itself. This is the LUSH program, and it's the reason Singapore looks the way it does. Developers calculate a green plot ratio for every project. Sky terraces, vertical gardens, rooftop farms, all of it counts. The result is a city where buildings don't just sit in a landscape, they become part of it. The Oasia Hotel downtown is the clearest example. Its red aluminum mesh facade is covered in more than 20 species of climbing plants. That greenery acts as natural insulation, cutting the building's cooling load. It absorbs rainwater, it filters air, it provides habitat, and it makes the building one of the most photographed in Southeast Asia, without trying to be. The government's targets include adding 1,000 hectares of green space by 2035 and ensuring every home is within a 10-minute walk of a park by 2030. In a city this dense, those numbers are only possible because the green space goes vertical. The park isn't just at ground level, it's on the 15th floor. Number 6. ERPN 2.0 and the end of the toll gantry. For decades, Singapore managed road congestion with physical toll gantries, blue and white structures lining major roads, deducting charges as vehicles passed underneath. It worked well. Singapore has some of the least congested roads of any major city, but the gantries were fixed. They could only charge at specific points, and they took up space. By January 2027, every Singapore-registered vehicle will carry a small onboard unit using satellite navigation to track location and calculate charges in real time. 95 physical gantries replaced by virtual ones. The road itself becomes the toll booth. Tolls and parking fees deduct automatically. No slowing down, no stopping, no interaction needed. The device also sends real-time alerts for school zones, elderly pedestrian areas, and active bus lanes. The infrastructure now exists to charge drivers for the actual distance they travel on congested roads, not just for passing a fixed point. London and New York are currently debating congestion pricing using technology far less advanced than what Singapore is already rolling out. And if a payment is missed, it's treated as an admin matter, not a traffic offense. If settled within 5 days, built to function, not to catch people out. Number 7. HDB void decks. Every public housing block in Singapore has an open ground floor. No apartments, no shops, just columns, shade, and open air. They call it the void deck. It's been part of Singapore's housing since the 1960s. Most people assume it exists for community events, and it does. Weddings, funerals, birthday parties. The void deck is the living room of the block. But there's an engineering reason that's just as deliberate. Open ground floors dramatically increase wind speed at street level in dense urban areas. Pollutants disperse faster. Heat buildup drops. The void deck functions as a ventilation system for the entire neighborhood. Then there's the social layer. Singapore's housing policy requires a demographic mix in every block. Because every resident passes through the void deck to reach the elevators, these spaces create repeated, low-stakes contact between neighbors. You don't need a formal event. You just need to walk past the same people often enough that they stop being strangers. 1 empty ground floor, 3 separate functions. Singapore built all of them into the same space without adding a single extra square meter. Number 8. Newater. Singapore has no natural aquifer, no meaningful river system, no groundwater reserves. For most of its history, it imported the majority of its water from Malaysia, a dependency that was always understood as a risk. Newater is how Singapore solved that. Since 2002, treated wastewater has been run through a 3-stage process: microfiltration, reverse osmosis, and ultraviolet disinfection, producing water that exceeds World Health Organization drinking standards across every measurable category. It has passed over 150,000 scientific tests. Wafer fabrication plants require water purity even higher than drinking water. By supplying those plants with Newater, Singapore keeps its reservoir water for people. During dry periods, Newater is blended into reservoirs to maintain supply regardless of rainfall. The government didn't call it recycled sewage. They called it new water. They served it at national events. They ran public education campaigns for years. They made it a point of national pride rather than a compromise. Today, Newater covers 40% of Singapore's total water demand. The target is 55% by 2060. A country with no natural water supply engineered itself into water security. That took vision most governments simply don't have. Number 9, Green Man Plus. At over 1,000 pedestrian crossings across Singapore, there's a small card reader on the traffic light pole. If you're a senior or have a disability, you tap your transit card. The Green Man stays green for up to 13 extra seconds. That's the whole system. No app, no registration, 1 tap. And it solves something most cities have quietly given up on: the very real fear for an older person, of being stranded in the middle of a crossing when the light changes. By 2027, it will be installed at 2,500 crossings across every housing estate in Singapore. Residential areas where speed limits drop to 30 or 40 kilometers per hour, and road design physically forces traffic to slow down. This isn't the most technically complex idea on this list, but it might be the most considered. Singapore looked at a specific group of people, identified a specific daily fear, and fixed it with a card reader and a few extra seconds. Sometimes that's what good design actually looks like. Number 10, SingPass. Every resident of Singapore has one app. It holds their identity, their signature, their medical records, their pension, their property documents, and access to over 2,000 government and private services. It's called SingPass. The digital IC is a legal alternative to a physical ID card, accepted at clinics, libraries, and government counters. Sign with SingPass lets residents execute legally binding documents using a fingerprint or face scan. No physical presence required. The MyInfo profile works on a once-only principle. Authorize the government to share your verified data with a bank or insurer, and you never upload the same document twice. Think about what that means if you've spent time dealing with fragmented government portals, password resets, and uploading the same proof of address to 6 different institutions in the same month. SingPass isn't just a convenient app. It's what the relationship between a citizen and their government looks like when it's designed around the person using it. Number 11. Pneumatic waste collection. In Singapore's newest housing estates, Tengah, Punggol, there are no rubbish trucks doing early morning rounds, no bin centers at the base of each block, no smell, no noise, no one manually collecting bags floor by floor. Residents drop their rubbish into a chute. It travels through a sealed underground pipe network at up to 60 miles per hour, pulled by vacuum pressure, straight to a centralized collection point. The system cuts the manpower needed for waste collection by up to 70%. Because everything moves through sealed pipes, there are no odors at street level, no pests, no spillage. Sensors monitor fill levels and only trigger collection when containers hit 80% capacity. So the trucks that do run take optimized routes, not fixed schedules. The land that would have held bin centers and service roads becomes parks and playgrounds instead. Singapore looked at rubbish collection, the most thankless, invisible job in any city, and decided it deserved to be engineered properly, not for the glamour of it, just because it was worth doing well. 11 ideas. One city, and a consistent pattern running through all of them. Singapore isn't a perfect place. It's expensive. The rules are strict. Some people find it too controlled, too deliberate, too polished to feel fully alive. Those are fair points. But what it shows, clearly, at scale, with data, is that most of the friction we accept in daily life isn't inevitable. It's just unsolved. And the gap between an unsolved problem and a solved one is usually a decision, some investment, and the willingness to actually follow through. If you want to see more from cities quietly getting things right, subscribe. There's a lot more to cover.